Welcome to Standard Chartered Money Insights, a podcast series by Standard Chartered Bank that brings you market views and insights on the go.
Welcome to Cut to the Chase. Today is Monday, the 19th of January. I'm Daniel Lam, your host for the podcast. How many times will the Fed be cutting rates this year? This has to be one of the key FAQs that our CIO team has been getting over the last few weeks. Well, we're expecting the Fed to be cutting rates 3 times of 25 basis points each this year. The street is somewhere around 2 times, while there have been talks from the Fed chair candidates that there can be more than what I've just mentioned. Well, let's take a look at the hard macro data first. The latest US December CPI came in slightly cooler than expected, with headline inflation rising by 2.7% year over year, and core inflation rising by 2.6%. Core goods and services inflation were roughly unchanged at 1.4% and 3% respectively. Despite noises from the government shutdown, the message from the December CPI is consistent with recent months, i.e., inflation looks past the peak tariff impact. Leading indicators continue to point towards further disinflation. Services inflation will hinge on a stalled labor market that has ground to a halt but not collapsed. Faster than expected disinflation will lead to more Fed cuts than currently priced. So what are the other factors? Well, it is the opinion polls and the midterm elections. We spoke last week that Trump's approval rating has dropped to a second-term low at 36%, which does not bode well with the upcoming midterm elections. Since World War II, there was only a 55% probability where US equities made positive returns in the midterm election year, versus 76% for the other years. The S&P 500 registered an average return at 3.8% in midterm years, compared to 10.8% average gain for the other years. Hence, Trump has every incentive to make sure that the US consumers, who are also the voters, are happy and they continue to be buying goods at affordable prices. This means he will try to cool off inflation further. As I said many times before, Trump holds the valve. He can turn up the heat, but he can also tone down the intensity of tariffs, and this would put downward pressure on inflation, paving the way for more Fed rate cuts. Of course, over the weekend, Trump said that he will be imposing further tariffs on a number of European countries as part of his campaign to purchase Greenland. Will this lead to risk of reignition of inflation? Well, it seems that he's using this window of opportunity to push through his political agenda, with the latest non-farm payroll slowing but not collapsing, and inflation coming off. And I would argue that European imports are more higher end, and Trump appears to be focusing upon the mass voters. The cases in point would be his recent efforts in making housing prices affordable, as well as his suspension of tariffs on the more essential items, such as furniture. So now, is buying bonds the best way forward? Not a total yes, because investors are concerned about Fed independence and non-interference from the government. But lower real yields, de-dollarization, and hedge against geopolitical risk can lend further tailwind to gold. That is all from me for today. As always, if you enjoy this podcast, please don't forget to rate and like it. Thanks for listening, and we wish you a happy day ahead.
Thank you for listening to Standard Chartered Money Insights, a podcast series by Standard Chartered Bank. For more details, visit Market Views on the Go on our website or click the link in the description.